With Captain Morrison in stasis, Lieutenant Harrison took command of the ship. It felt strange to be in charge, but he knew what needed to be done. The crew worked harder than ever to take care of the children, while managing the ship systems that were running at dangerous levels. On the third day, Chief Parker came to Harrison with more bad news. The main engine was overheating because they were pushing it too hard. If it failed, they would be stuck in space with no way to reach Sanctuary Station. They needed to slow down and let the engine cool off. But slowing down meant the trip would take even longer. How much longer? Harrison asked. If we slow down to safe engine speed, we are looking at 12 days instead of 8, Parker said. Maybe more if we have other problems. 12 days. Harrison felt sick thinking about it. They were already rationing food and water. The children were hungry all the time, but they did not complain much. 12 days would mean cutting rations even more. Some of the smaller children might not survive. Dr. Walker was treating more sick children every day. The crowded conditions were making everyone weak. Some children had fevers. Others had trouble breathing because the air recycling system could not keep up. A few were so homesick they stopped eating altogether. We need more people in stasis, Walker said during their daily crew meeting. The life support system cannot handle this many people for 12 days. Harrison looked around at his remaining crew. Besides himself, there were Walker and Parker and Young plus 8 other crew members. They needed Walker awake to treat the children. They needed Young awake to handle communications. They needed at least 2 people to fly the ship. I will go next, Parker said. The engines can run on automatic once I set them up properly. Harrison did not want to lose his chief engineer, but Parker was right. The engines were simple enough to monitor without an expert. And Parker was a big person like Captain Morrison. Her stasis would save significant resources. The next day, Parker prepared the engines for automatic operation. She showed Harrison and Young how to monitor the systems and what to do if alarms went off. She wrote down instructions for every possible problem. Then she said goodbye to some of the children who had gotten to know her. A girl named Sarah had been following Parker around asking questions about how the ship worked. Why do you have to sleep too? Sarah asked. So you and all your friends have enough food, Parker explained. While I am sleeping, you will have to be extra good and help the other grown-ups. I will, Sarah promised. I will help fix things like you showed me. Parker hugged Sarah and got into the second stasis pod. Now there were only 10 crew members awake to take care of over 200 children. Everyone would have to work even harder. But the children were learning to help too. Emma Davis organized the older children into groups. Each group took care of several younger children. They helped with meals and bedtime and keeping the sleeping areas clean. The teenagers like Chris and Megan became assistant counselors helping Dr. Walker with homesick children. Tony Martinez was still carrying his stuffed elephant, but now he also carried a small toolbox that Sarah had given him. He pretended to fix things around the ship. The other children thought it was cute, and it made them feel better to see Tony being helpful instead of just sad. On the 5th day, the water recycling system started making strange noises. Young was trying to fix it when 10-year-old David came to help. David was very good with mechanical things. His father had been an engineer before the war. I think this pipe is loose, David said, pointing to a connection that was vibrating. Young tightened the connection, and the noise stopped. Good eye, David. How did you know that? My dad taught me about pipes and machines, David said proudly. He said if something is shaking, it probably needs to be tightened. Young started teaching David and some other children about the ship's systems. The children were smart and eager to learn. Soon they were helping monitor gauges and check connections. They could not do complicated repairs, but they could spot problems early. This helped a lot because Young was getting very tired. She was handling communications and ship systems and helping with the children. She needed to sleep, but there was too much work for one person. Having the children help meant she could focus on the most important tasks. On the 6th day, another crisis hit. The food processor broke down. This machine turned stored food powder into meals that tasted good and had proper nutrition. Without it, they would have to eat the emergency food bars, which were not good for children to eat for many days. Dr. Walker was trying to fix the food processor when Emma Davis came to watch. Emma had been reading some of the technical manuals she found in the crew quarters. She was only 8, but she was very smart and could read better than most adults. The manual says you need to check the power coupling first, Emma said. Walker looked at the manual Emma was holding. She was right. Walker had been trying to fix the mechanical parts, but the problem was electrical. Following Emma's suggestion, Walker found a loose power connection and fixed it. The food processor started working again. "Where did you learn to read technical manuals?" Walker asked. "My mom was an engineer," Emma said. "She taught me that if something is broken, you should always read the instructions first." Walker realized that several of the children had parents who were engineers or technicians or scientists. These children had learned useful skills before their families died. Walker started asking around to see what other children might be able to help. She found that Lucy knew about growing plants because her father was a farmer. Peter knew about taking care of animals because he had many pets. A girl named Maria knew about cooking because her mother was a chef. A boy named James knew about computers because his father was a programmer. Soon Walker had organized the children into teams based on what they knew. The farming team helped grow fresh vegetables in the ship's small garden. The cooking team helped prepare meals that tasted better. The computer team helped monitor ship systems. The repair team helped fix small problems. This made everyone feel better. The children felt useful instead of helpless. The crew felt less overwhelmed. And the ship ran more smoothly because many people were watching for problems instead of just a few, but they were still running out of supplies. On the 7th day, they had to cut food rations again. Everyone was hungry all the time. Some of the smaller children were getting weak. Dr. Walker was worried about malnutrition, but there was nothing she could do, except try to make sure the youngest children got a little extra food. The older children understood what was happening. They started giving some of their food to the younger ones without being asked. Chris Phillips gave half his dinner to a 4-year-old boy who was crying from hunger. Megan Phillips shared her water with 3 small girls who were thirsty. "You need to eat too," Walker told Chris. "I am bigger," Chris said. "I can go hungry better than little kids can." This spirit of sharing spread through the ship. Children who had lost everything were still willing to sacrifice for those who needed help more. It reminded the crew why they were fighting this war. They were not just trying to survive. They were trying to preserve the best parts of humanity. On the 8th day, Harrison made a hard decision. They needed one more person in stasis to make the remaining food last until they reached Sanctuary Station. It should be him because he was one of the largest crew members left. But if he went into stasis, who would command the ship? Young could do it. She was smart and calm under pressure. The children trusted her, and the automated systems could handle most of the flying as long as someone was watching for problems. Harrison called the crew together and explained his decision. Young protested that she was not ready to command, but Harrison assured her she could do it. Dr. Walker would help her. The children would help her. They were all in this together. Before entering stasis, Harrison talked to the children one more time. He told them that Kate Young was in charge now and they should listen to her. He told them they were the bravest children he had ever met. He told them they would reach safety soon and start new lives. "Will you wake up like the captain will?" Tony asked. "Yes," Harrison said. "And when we do, we will all celebrate together." Harrison entered the 3rd stasis pod, leaving Young in command with Walker and 7 other crew members. They still had 4 more days to go before reaching Sanctuary Station. 4 more days of hunger and fear and uncertainty. But they had made it this far. They would make it the rest of the way. The children deserved nothing less. The first day on the ship was hard for everyone. The children had never been on a spaceship before. Everything was new and scary. The ship made strange noises. The gravity felt different. Some children got sick from being in space for the first time. Emma Davis helped the crew take care of the younger children. She was only 8, but she was very smart and responsible. She showed the little ones where the bathrooms were. She helped them wash their faces and brush their teeth. When they were scared, she told them stories about brave space explorers. Tony Martinez would not let go of his stuffed elephant. He carried it everywhere and talked to it like it was real. At mealtime, he tried to feed it. At sleep time, he made sure it had a blanket too. Some of the other children thought it was silly, but Emma told them to be nice. Everyone needed something to make them feel safe. Chris and Megan Phillips were like big brother and sister to many children. Chris was good at fixing things. When a child's toy broke, he could usually make it work again. Megan was good at keeping everyone clean and organized. She made sure the little ones changed their clothes and washed their hands. Dr. Walker was very busy. Some children had cuts and bruises from the evacuation. Others were sick from being so crowded together. A few were so sad they would not eat or talk. Sam was patient with all of them. He sang songs while he checked their temperatures. He told funny stories while he gave them medicine. Lisa Parker showed the older children how the ship worked. She explained about the engines and the life support systems. Some children were very interested in learning about spaceships. They asked many questions, and Lisa tried to answer them all. It helped keep their minds off their troubles. Kate Young let some children help with communications. They listened to radio signals from other ships and stations. Most of the signals were about the war, but sometimes they heard music or messages from families looking for lost relatives. The children always got excited when they heard something happy. Ben Harrison taught some of the older children about navigation. He showed them star charts and explained how ships found their way through space. A few children were very good at math and learned quickly. Ben said they might make good pilots someday. But even with everyone working together, the ship had problems. The air recycling system kept making warning sounds. The water recycler was working too hard and might break down. The food supplies were running low faster than expected because some children needed special diets. Jake spent time with the children before he had to go into stasis. He wanted them to know they could trust his crew. He sat with them during meals and listened to their stories. Many children had terrible memories from when the aliens attacked their homes, but they also had good memories of their families and friends. One little girl named Lucy showed Jake a picture she drew. It was her family standing in front of their house on a planet called Greenfield. In the picture, the sun was yellow and there were flowers everywhere. "My daddy grew the best tomatoes in the whole colony," she said proudly. A boy named Peter told Jake about his dog Rex. "Rex was the smartest dog ever," Peter said. "He could catch a ball and shake hands and roll over. When the bad ships came, Rex barked to warn everyone. I hope he is okay." Jake listened to many stories like this. Every child had lost someone important, but they still had hope. They still believed things would get better. That gave Jake strength to do what he had to do. On the second day, Jake gathered all the children in the main cargo area. It was crowded, but everyone could fit if they sat close together. Some children sat on other children's laps. Some stood against the walls. Everyone was quiet and listened carefully. "I need to tell you something important," Jake said. "Our trip is going to take longer than we thought. To make sure everyone has enough food and water and air, some of the grown-ups need to sleep for a while." A boy named Alex raised his hand. "What kind of sleep?" "Special sleep," Jake explained. "We will go into machines called stasis pods. It is like a very deep sleep where we do not need to eat or drink or breathe much air. But while we sleep, you will have to help the grown-ups who stay awake." Emma Davis asked, "Are you going to sleep too, Captain?" Jake knelt down so he was at her eye level. "Yes, I am. But Lieutenant Harrison will take care of the ship. Dr. Walker will take care of anyone who gets sick. You can trust them just like you trust me." Tony Martinez looked worried. "What if you do not wake up?" Jake smiled at the little boy. "I will wake up. I promise. But while I am sleeping, I need you to be brave and help take care of the other children." "Can you do that?" Tony nodded seriously. "I will take care of everyone. Me and my elephant." Jake hugged Tony and many other children. He wanted them to know everything would be okay. Even though he was scared too, he could not let them see it. Children needed adults to be strong and confident. That evening, Jake prepared for stasis. Sam Walker checked his health to make sure he was ready. Lisa Parker made sure the stasis pod was working correctly. Ben Harrison went over the ship's course and emergency procedures. Kate Young updated the communications logs. Before getting into the stasis pod, Jake recorded a message for the children. If something went wrong and he did not wake up, he wanted them to know how proud he was of them. He wanted them to know that saving them was the most important thing he had ever done. The stasis pod looked like a metal bed with a clear cover. Jake lay down inside it and Sam attached the monitoring devices. The pod would keep track of his heartbeat and breathing and brain activity. If anything went wrong, an alarm would wake him up. "See you in a few days, Captain," Ben said. "Take care of our passengers," Jake replied. The pod cover closed, and Jake felt the cold sleep beginning to take hold. His last thought was of Emma's brave smile and Tony's tight hug. No matter what happened to him, the children would be safe. That was all that mattered. The ship continued through space carrying its precious cargo. Without Jake, the crew had to work even harder. But they were determined to get every child to safety. They had made a promise and they would keep it. In the cargo areas, children slept and played and tried to stay hopeful. They missed their families, but they were starting to feel like they belonged together. Like they were becoming a new kind of family. A family of children who had lost everything but still had each other. The journey to Sanctuary Station would test everyone on the ship. But they would face it together. Jake and his crew worked fast to get the children ready.
Amy Carter helped them make lists of names and ages.
The youngest child was only 2 years old. The oldest was 17. Most of them had small bags with clothes and one special thing like a toy or picture. Getting 218 children onto a ship made for 100 people was hard work. Lisa Parker had to change the cargo rooms into places where children could sleep. She put up walls and made beds from boxes and blankets. Sam Walker checked every child to make sure they were healthy enough for space travel. Kate Young programmed the computers to give more air and water to more people. Ben Harrison loaded food and water. There was not enough for a long trip, but it would have to work. The children were scared, but they tried to help. The older ones carried bags for the younger ones. They helped count supplies and clean the rooms. Jake met some of the children while they worked. There was Emma Davis, who was 8 years old. She had long brown hair and was very smart. She helped other children feel better by telling them stories and making them laugh. Emma had lost her parents on a colony called New Hope. She remembered everything about that day, but she did not cry anymore. There was also Tony Martinez, who was 5 years old. He carried an old stuffed elephant everywhere. The elephant was gray and missing one ear, but Tony loved it. His mother gave it to him before she died. Tony asked everyone when his mama was coming back. The older children told him she was watching him from the stars. 2 teenagers named Chris and Megan Phillips took care of 6 smaller children. Chris was 16 and Megan was 17. Their parents died fighting aliens on their homeworld. Now they were like parents to the little ones. They made sure everyone ate and stayed clean and did not get lost. While the crew worked, Jake watched the sky. The aliens were coming fast. His ship could see them on the long-distance sensors. Crystal ships that looked like giant knives cutting through space. They would be here soon. "Captain, we need to go now," Ben said. "The alien scouts are only 2 hours away." Jake looked around the cargo bay. Children were sitting on beds made of blankets. Some were sleeping. Some were talking quietly. Some were looking out the small windows at the stars. They trusted him to keep them safe. That was a big responsibility. "All crew to stations," Jake said. "Ben, take us up." "Kate, tell Haven's Rest we are leaving." "Lisa, check all systems." "Sam, make sure the children are ready for takeoff." The ship lifted off from Haven's Rest just as the first alien scout ships appeared on the sensors. Jake felt relief as they left the planet behind. The children were safe for now, but their problems were just starting. New Dawn was very crowded. Children had to take turns sleeping. They had to share food and water. The air recycling system was working too hard. Everything was loud and cramped and uncomfortable. Dr. Walker moved between the children, checking on them. Some were homesick. Some were scared. Some missed their families so much they could not eat. Sam was good with children. He told them jokes and showed them how the ship worked. He made them feel important by giving them small jobs to do. Jake planned to take the children to New Terra. It was a big space station where refugees went to be safe. The trip should take 4 days. They had enough food and water for 5 days if everyone was careful. It would be tight, but they could make it. But 3 hours after leaving Haven's Rest, Kate Young came to Jake with bad news. She had been listening to military radio channels. Her face was white with worry. "Captain, I just heard from Fleet Command. New Terra is gone. The aliens attacked it yesterday. All the refugee ships there were destroyed." Jake felt like someone hit him in the stomach. New Terra was supposed to be safe. It was far from the fighting and had good defenses. If the aliens could reach New Terra, they could reach anywhere. "What about other refugee stations?" Jake asked. Kate checked her star charts. "Sanctuary Station is the closest safe place now, but it is 8 days away. Maybe more if we have to go around alien patrols." 8 days. Jake did the math in his head. They had food and water for 5 days with careful rationing. The air system was already working too hard. 8 days would be impossible with so many people. Jake called his crew to the bridge. The children could not hear them there. He told them about New Terra and about Sanctuary Station. He told them about the food and water and air problems. "We cannot make it 8 days with this many people," Lisa said. "The life support system will break down." "What if we use less power?" Ben asked. "Turn off things we do not need." We could do that, Lisa said. But then we would have to go slower. The trip would take even longer. Sam looked worried. Some of the younger children are already getting sick from the crowded conditions. If we have to ration food and water more, they will get worse. Jake stared out at the stars. Space was big and empty and cold. His ship was small and full of children who needed him to make the right choice. But there did not seem to be any right choices left. There is one option, Sam said quietly. Emergency stasis pods. Everyone looked at him. The ship had 4 stasis pods for emergencies. If someone was badly hurt, they could be put in the pod to sleep until they reached a hospital. But using stasis pods for a long trip was dangerous. Sometimes people did not wake up. If some of us went into stasis, we would use less food and water and air, Sam continued. The children would have more supplies. Jake understood what Sam was suggesting. Some of the crew would have to risk their lives so the children could live. It was the only way. I will take the first pod, Jake said. No, Captain, Ben said. We need you to command the ship. You can fly this ship just as well as I can, Jake replied. And I am the biggest person here. If I go into stasis, it will save the most supplies. His crew argued, but Jake had made up his mind. He was the captain. It was his job to take care of everyone on his ship, even if it meant he might not wake up again. They had 1 day to prepare before someone would have to enter the first stasis pod. 1 day to make sure the children would survive the long journey to safety. Jake Morrison stood in front of the big screen on his ship. Red dots showed where human colonies used to be. Now they were gone. The alien ships had destroyed them all. Jake felt sick looking at it. Every red dot meant millions of people were dead. His ship was called New Dawn. It was not a fighting ship. It was made to carry things from one place to another. But now it carried people running away from the war. Jake and his crew saved people from planets before the aliens came. It was dangerous work, but someone had to do it. The aliens were called Zephyrians. They looked like tall gray people, but their skin was hard like stone. Their ships were made of crystal that could cut through human ships like paper. Nobody knew why they wanted to kill all humans. They just came from deep space one day and started attacking. Jake got a message on his radio. It was from Amy Carter on Haven's Rest Colony. Her voice was scared. Captain Morrison, please help us. The aliens will be here in 6 hours. We have too many people and not enough ships. Jake looked at his crew. There were 12 people working on New Dawn. They were good people who wanted to help. Set course for Haven's Rest, Jake told his pilot Ben Harrison. Full speed. The trip took 3 hours. When they got there, Jake could see the colony was in trouble. People were running everywhere with bags and boxes. Children were crying. Parents were trying to keep their families together. The spaceport was full of people waiting for ships that might never come. Amy Carter met Jake at the landing pad. She was a young woman with short brown hair. Her uniform was dirty and she looked like she had not slept in days. Thank you for coming, Captain. We have a big problem. She took Jake to a large building near the spaceport. Inside were hundreds of people sitting on the floor. They had blankets and small bags with their things. But what Jake saw made his heart hurt. In one corner of the building were more than 200 children. Some were babies. Some were teenagers. Most were somewhere in between. These children have no parents, Amy said. The aliens killed their families on other worlds. We brought them here because we thought it was safe. Now we have to get them out, but we do not have room. Jake watched the children. Some were playing simple games with rocks and sticks. Others were sitting quietly holding old toys. A few older children were taking care of the little ones. They were all trying to be brave, but Jake could see they were scared. How many ships are coming? Jake asked. 2 military ships in 3 days, Amy said. But the aliens will be here in 6 hours. Your ship can take maybe 150 adults. We have to choose who lives and who dies. Jake knew the rules. When ships were full, you took the adults first. Adults could work and fight. Adults could help win the war. Children just needed food and water and care. That was what the book said. That was what his bosses wanted him to do. But Jake could not stop looking at the children. There was a little girl with red hair who was singing to a baby. There was a boy about 10 years old who was helping smaller children tie their shoes. There was a teenager who was reading a story to a group of kids sitting in a circle. Jake remembered when he was a child. His parents died in a mining accident. Other people took care of him. They fed him and taught him and helped him become a ship captain. If nobody had cared about one little boy, Jake would never have been able to save anyone. What happens to the children if we leave them? Jake asked. Amy looked away. The military ships might get here in time. Maybe. And if they do not, Amy was quiet for a long time. The aliens do things to children. Bad things. We found records on other worlds. The children. They do not just die fast. Jake felt angry. The aliens were monsters, but his own people were also making him choose between saving adults or saving children. How was that right? How was that human? I need to talk to my crew, Jake said. He walked back to his ship. His crew was loading supplies and getting ready for passengers. They were good people. Lisa Parker fixed the engines and was the strongest person on the ship. Sam Walker was their doctor and could fix any hurt person. Kate Young talked to other ships and bases on the radio. Ben Harrison could fly the ship better than anyone. All of them had families somewhere. All of them could have stayed safe on Earth or other protected worlds, but they chose to come out here and save people. They chose to risk their lives for strangers. Jake gathered everyone in the main room of the ship. We have a choice to make, he said. We can follow orders and save 150 adults, or we can save all 218 children but break the rules. His crew looked at each other. Lisa spoke first. What do you think? Captain Jake looked out the window at the building full of children. I think those kids deserve a chance to grow up. I think if we save adults and leave children to die, we are no better than the aliens. Sam nodded. Children are the future. If we lose all our children, what are we fighting for? Kate crossed her arms. Command will be angry. We might get in trouble. Let them be angry, Ben said. I would rather get in trouble than live knowing I left kids to die. One by one, each crew member said yes. They would take the children. All of them. Even if it was dangerous. Even if they got in trouble. Even if it meant they might not all survive. Jake felt proud of his crew. This was why humans would win the war. Not because they had better ships or weapons. Because when it mattered, they chose to do the right thing even when it was hard. Then let's go get our passengers, Jake said. Kate Young had never commanded a ship before, but she did her best to stay calm for the children. With Lieutenant Harrison in stasis, she was now responsible for getting everyone safely to Sanctuary Station. The children looked up to her with trust in their eyes, and that gave her strength to keep going. Dr. Walker helped Young make decisions about the ship while also taking care of sick children. There were now 8 crew members awake and over 200 children. Everyone was hungry and tired, but they worked together to survive each day. On the 9th day, disaster struck. The oxygen recycling system broke down completely. The machine that cleaned the air and made it safe to breathe stopped working. Without it, they had maybe 6 hours of air left for everyone on the ship. Young and Walker tried to fix the system, but they did not know enough about it. Chief Parker would know how to repair it, but she was in stasis. Waking her up early was dangerous and might not even work. Young was starting to panic when Emma Davis came to her with an idea. What if we used the emergency medical supplies, Emma suggested. Dr. Walker has oxygen tanks for emergencies, and there are breathing masks in the medical bay. Young looked at Walker hopefully. Walker thought about it and nodded. We have enough medical oxygen for maybe 12 hours if we are very careful. But we need to fix the main system before then. They started connecting medical oxygen tanks to the ship's air system. It was not a perfect solution, but it would buy them time. While they worked, the older children helped keep the younger ones calm. They played quiet games and told stories so the little ones would not be scared. David, the boy who was good with machines, studied the broken recycling system with some other children. They found the technical manual and read it carefully. The problem was a burned-out part that cleaned chemicals from the air. We need a replacement part, David told Young. But maybe we can make one. Young was amazed. These children were only 10 and 11 years old, but they were thinking like engineers. David and his friends had an idea to use parts from other machines to build a replacement. They took apart a broken food heater and removed some metal pieces. They used tools from the repair kit to shape the pieces. Dr. Walker helped them understand which chemicals needed to be filtered out. It took them 3 hours, but they built something that might work. Young installed the makeshift part while holding her breath. When she turned the system back on, everyone waited quietly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the air recycling system hummed back to life. The air started getting cleaner. They had done it. You children saved us all, Young told David and his team. She was so proud of them she almost cried. These kids had lost their families and homes, but they still found ways to help others. The rest of the journey was hard, but they managed. Food was running very low. Everyone was hungry all the time. Some of the smaller children were getting weak from not eating enough, but the older children kept sharing their food with the little ones. Tony Martinez surprised everyone on the 10th day. He had been quiet and sad for most of the trip, but when a 3-year-old girl named Amy started crying because she was hungry, Tony gave her his whole meal. "I am not hungry," Tony lied. His stomach was making loud growling sounds, but he smiled at little Amy. "My elephant does not eat much, so I do not need to eat much either." Dr. Walker saw what Tony did and made sure he got some extra food later. But she was touched by his kindness. A 5-year-old boy who had lost his mother was taking care of someone smaller than himself. Chris and Megan Phillips organized the teenagers to help even more. They took turns staying awake at night to watch the younger children sleep. They helped Dr. Walker give medicine to sick kids. They led singing and games to keep everyone's spirits up. Emma Davis became like a little teacher. She read stories to groups of children. She helped them with basic math and reading lessons using books from the ship's library. She made sure everyone felt included and important. On the 11th day, they finally saw Sanctuary Station on their sensors. It was a small research outpost near the edge of human space. Not fancy like the big stations, but it was safe and had supplies. Young sent a message to the station explaining their situation. The station commander, Dr. Janet Murphy, was shocked to hear about their cargo of children. She immediately started preparing medical facilities and temporary housing. "How many children did you say?" Dr. Murphy asked over the radio. 218, Young replied, plus 12 crew members. 3 of our crew are in emergency stasis and need immediate medical attention. There was a long pause. "We are a research station. We only have housing for 50 people, but we will make room somehow. Bring them in." As the new dawn approached the station docking bay, Young felt relief flooding through her. They had made it. Every single child was alive. The crew in stasis would get proper medical care. Their impossible journey was almost over. The docking was difficult because the ship was so overloaded it handled strangely. But Young managed to bring them in safely. When the docking bay doors opened, the children could see dozens of station workers waiting to help them. Dr. Murphy was a kind woman with gray hair who immediately started organizing food and medical care for the children. Her staff worked around the clock to set up sleeping areas and make sure everyone was comfortable. The 3 crew members in stasis were moved to the station's medical bay. Captain Morrison, Lieutenant Harrison, and Chief Parker were all successfully revived. Morrison spent 2 days recovering, but he was okay. The stasis pods had worked perfectly. When Morrison was well enough, he visited the children who were staying in temporary shelters around the station. They were all happy to see him awake and healthy. Tony Martinez ran up and hugged him while still carrying his stuffed elephant. "Captain, you are awake," Tony said excitedly. "We took care of everyone like you asked us to." Morrison knelt down and hugged Tony back. "You did a wonderful job. All of you did." Emma Davis showed Morrison a drawing she had made during the journey. It was a picture of the new dawn flying through space with all the children looking out the windows. At the bottom she had written, "Thank you for keeping us together." Morrison felt tears in his eyes as he looked at the drawing. These children had been through terrible things, but they still had hope. They still believed in kindness and helping each other. That was what made humans special. News of the New Dawn's mission spread through the human military networks. In a war where humans were losing ground every day, the story of Captain Morrison and his crew gave people hope. It reminded them what they were fighting for. The children were eventually relocated to safer colonies far from the fighting. Many would grow up to become scientists, doctors, teachers, and engineers. Some would join the military to protect other children from the aliens. Emma Davis would become a famous scientist who found new ways to help refugees. Tony Martinez would design better life support systems for ships. Chris and Megan Phillips would start schools for war, orphans. But they would all remember the journey on the New Dawn. They would remember how Captain Morrison and his crew chose to save children instead of following orders. They would remember how they all worked together to survive. Years later, when the war was over, historians would write about many battles and heroes. But they would also write about the New Dawn and its cargo of children. They would write about how one ship captain decided that protecting innocence was more important than following rules. Captain Morrison kept Emma's drawing in his cabin for the rest of his career. It reminded him that even in the darkest times, humans could choose to do the right thing. The little ones had stayed together, and through them, humanity had found its way back to hope.